Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon and a special storage solution, this time for Star Wars Rebellion. Now, Star Wars Rebellion was a game that I have owned since well before I started coming up with DIY storage solutions, and it's one that, due to its age in my collection, had never really received the storage treatment that I give most of my games. But when I pulled it out recently to play for the live stream on May the 4th, I realized that what was inside the box was kind of a hot mess. So, after playing the game, as I started to clean it up, I decided to go ahead and put together a storage solution. So, this is my storage solution for Star Wars Rebellion, which has a lot of little tiny miniatures, a lot of components, a lot of cardboard pieces, and one big giant box. One thing to note is that I do have the Rise of the Empire expansion, and so everything there is for Rebellion is in this box right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have inside. So right off the bat, I do want to point out the kind of biggest thing I don't like about my own storage solution here is that the boards are stored on the bottom. Now, that's not a huge deal. It just means that you kind of have to tip the box over, but you're going to be pulling everything out anyways. With the insert that Fantasy Flight provided, the board rested on top of everything, and there were two wells that you kind of just dumped everything into. Well, obviously that insert did not work. I tried to rearrange it, and it wasn't working, so I pulled it out completely. So what we have on top here is the rule book, along with the the player boards, or whatever you want to call these, for the Rebels and the Empire. This bag came with the game, and these were in the bag to begin with. I don't know why I threw the manuals in here. I realized they fit, and so I thought maybe it would keep these from getting bent up. But either way, if you don't have the bag still, this is a nice flat surface. Nothing's going to get bent up. So basically what I have created is 3 boxes for each faction. You pull out those boxes, you hand it to them, and you're ready to go. So where do we want to start? Let's start with these. Each faction has been given one of these. This is technically listed as a crayon storage box at Michael's, but you can get these for 99 cents a piece, and they are essentially the size of a deck box. You could see that there's a little bit of room in there, so you could fit sleeved cards easily. I don't know if you would be able to get, if you sleeved all the cards, if you'd be able to get even like the mini cards on top of yours, so you may have to figure out someplace to put them. But unsleeved, all of the Rebellion cards fit in here, and it's just barely fits, but I could split these little cards in half and they fit like this. You can see there's a little bit of wiggle room with the Empire cards, but this is all the Rebellion cards, big and little. This is all the Empire cards, big and little. And I started to put all of the Rebellion in red and all the Empire in blue. That is just my OCD kicking in, but then I couldn't. They were out of stock of the blue colored pencil boxes. So eventually down the road, though, I will be switching this out for a blue one, so that I can basically hand the Empire player all the blue boxes and the Rebel players all the red boxes. But that's just my own OCD kicking in. You could choose whatever color you want. So then for these boxes here, these are considered colored pencil boxes, and these guys are basically holding all of the standees as well as the rings. Now these larger things have created a little bit of havoc with Admiral Ozzel here, but for the most part, these boxes allow you to lay them all out and have the rings off to the side. And I could probably keep these out. They're pretty thick and pretty stiff, but they just fit in here, so it seems to work. But that's basically all of the character standees for the Empire, and then you can see all the Rebellion ones actually even fit in here nicer than the Empires because there's a few more rebellions. So it's actually like a row this way, then turn around a row this way, and then a row in the middle. And they all fit in there so nicely that it's like this box was made for them. And then these, various rings just kind of sit on top. So this is basically, you hand this to the Rebellion player and they are good to go along with their cards. Same thing over here for the Empire player. Just imagine this in blue and you're all set. Okay, so then we've got 2 Plano storage boxes that have organized all of the miniatures for us. So for the Rebellion, we have a Plano 3400 series, and for the Empire, which has a lot more miniatures, we have a Plano 3600 series. So this is pretty straightforward here. I left 2 sections without the middle divider, one to hold all of the Rebellion troopers and Rebel troopers, and one to hold all of the large ships, the Mon Calamari cruisers and the medical frigates from the expansion. So you can see that not every piece got its own well. For example, U-wings and airspeeders had to share one. But the whole idea was to be able to separate out X-wings and Y-wings and U-wings because those all looked the same, or like the Vanguard troopers from the regular Rebel troopers. That way, it's very easy to pull stuff out because I noticed in playing our live playthrough where I just have everything in a pile, I'd sit there and be like, okay, I want to build a Rebel Vanguard, and I'd be sitting there, no, and I kept pulling up Rebel troopers, no, that's not, okay, there's one. Or I could not find a medical frigate for the life of me when I finally got the chance to build one. So that is all the Rebellion players. So again, basically, if you're playing the game, you hand that stack to the Rebellion player, say, there you go. These cards right here are all of the ones that you technically don't need anymore if you have the expansion. So remember, all of this content that you see, if you don't have the expansion, is certainly going to fit because the expansion just adds a little bit more of everything. It adds more miniatures, it adds more cards. Well, some of the cards you're supposed to replace completely. Now, I don't have the heart to completely throw these away, so I just threw them all in a baggie, and I know that those are what they are. Also, I have my dice in a baggie along with the 2 time track tokens. Basically, you're going to dump these out in a pile. You're going to need them constantly, so there's no point in finding anything fancy for them. Plus, it allows them to just be tucked right there. All right, so then we have the Empire miniatures in a large Plano box. What's really nice about the 3600 series is that it's, this is meant to be a fishing tackle box. And so there's all these various ways where here on this side, the horizontal frames are locked in, but over here, they're not. So I was able to pull this frame out to get the Death Stars in. And then I basically kind of sorted everything out. For the most part, everything has its own space, except for the shield generators are sharing with the Death Stars, but that makes thematic sense. So again, everything is just nicely organized for the Empire with the Plano 3600 series. And then last but not least, I have one of these very horizontal storage boxes that I get at Michael's. I will put a link in the description below to these, but they're very handy in that they're very specific shape. Just works for a lot of, like the Fantasy Flight size boxes. They're just the right length and they can slide down flat or lay on their side. The lids stay open nice and wide while you're playing. So basically, lots of loyalty and subjugation markers for the Empire. So they got 2 slots. Here's the Rebellion. Here's the Sabotage. Damage, encounters. What I would probably end up doing is moving the Rebellion all down to here, putting Sabotage in here, and then putting these in the middle. That way I can just set this kind of off to the side and we can both reach it and access it. But this is just a really handy storage box that you can find at Michael's and Michaels.com. You could probably find it other places too, like Hobby Lobby and other art supply stores. But I'll put a link to the description down below. And then on the bottom here, you just see is the boards. I left them on the bottom. That way they lay completely flat. With this having to stick up on the side like this, they didn't have room to lay completely flat on top of everything else. But there you go. That is how I decided to put everything back in my box here. You can watch me put it all back away real quick, just so you can see how I got it all in there. That's laying flat. And then this lays up on its side right there. It's okay if it tips over a little bit. The bag of dice went next to it. And then basically 1, 2, I just threw these right there just to keep them flat. And then just kind of 3 rows of these pencil/card boxes, and the instructions and everything else fit right there. So everything fits really nicely back in the box. There's a little bit of space here. You know, it's a pretty big game, so I wouldn't necessarily want to store it on its side, but I guess you could. But even there's a little bit more room to put who knows what. Maybe they'll come up with another expansion someday. You never know. But that is it. That is my storage solution for Star Wars Rebellion from Fantasy Flight Games. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, including more storage solutions and more Star Wars content in the future, please consider subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.